Hi, welcome back to It Takes a Village. I am Reverend Dr. Jenny Schultz-Thomas and joined by my friend and colleague, Sarah Renchel-Jones. How's it going, Sarah? It is almost Thanksgiving.
It is. I can't believe Thanksgiving is a week from today.
A week from today. Yes, it's a week from today. So we are here talking to you about community, about building and co-creating a community for belonging and connection. And we have been doing this for about 8 weeks. We launched reading a book together, How to Know a Person, The Art of Seeing One Another Deeply and Being Seen by David Brooks. And it's proved, an amazing opportunity for our congregation, right, to really get to know each other and have good conversations. But I think even more than we could have anticipated, knowing that we are part of this village and that we have safe places to talk and come together. Now we're walking into this holiday season, and I think it's so important to remember, right, that there can be difficult terrain ahead of us, but we are always supported and undergirded by this faith community and hopefully our faith traditions that keep us centered.
Yeah, I know I'm feeling really grateful to be part of this community at this time in our country's history and the history of our world. Just knowing that we are a very progressive and kind of unapologetically progressive community of faith, where we can really talk with each other and engage with each other. When I think about building community, I just am really full of gratitude for that and feel like all of us who are in any way acquainted with Countryside have a place here and can find, whether it's a small group or the larger congregation, can find that belonging and can know that you can plug into it and lean on it for support.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And there are so many different communities that we are all a part of, right? Whether it's a workplace or school setting or sports or just a club of women playing cards together or swimming at the Y or something. But there's something unique about coming to a faith community, to a place of worship, to this Tri-Faith Commons. It's like walking into this space. You just know, it's almost like people's blood pressure drops. Like, you just know that you're welcome, that you belong, and honestly, that there's no bad question, there's no bad feeling or thought, that I think, are encouraging people to bring their full selves, right? Because life is messy, right? It's not one of those old school, you better have your ducks in a row and in order before you come to church, right? You should be all put together, have all the answers, don't ask any questions, smile, wear your white gloves, come and go. I think that we, in this community, and just across progressivism, I think there's this need to really let go of the pretenses about what we think we should be doing or how we should be responding. And just kind of take these deep breaths and know that how we show up, right, really also points to the authenticity in which we are choosing this life of faith, right? God calls us to love one another and our neighbors as ourselves. And we can't do that if we're kind of walking around a half self, whether it's because we're hiding things or thinking we should be someone, or maybe our full self isn't welcome in the world.
Right.
So Countryside really is this deep grounding place. And I'm privileged to serve here and be a member here and bring my family here. So I hope that as we continue navigating, the difficulties in relationships and in society, those will never stop, right? We'll always be challenged by those who have different opinions or maybe aren't people of faith who don't understand, why faith is important to us. But it's our job to make sure that people know that we're here. And I think that's really important as we head into this season of Thanksgiving and the holidays. It can be a wonderful time, like excitement and gift giving and gratitude sharing, but it can also be a lonely time for people.
Right.
So making sure people know that there's always a place. And the Countryside's here, right? Whether you're plugged in physically on the Commons or on the campus, or you're just listening online.
Yeah, it's been great to hear about how many people do listen and feel connected by the podcast to this community, whether or not they're here on Sunday mornings or other times during the week. But I really appreciate what you're saying about showing up with our whole selves, because I know as a kid, and I'm a pastor's kid, so I'm sure that's part of the problem, is that, you go to church and it's like, okay, get ready and put on your very best self at church and don't talk about your problems and don't be vulnerable. And it was almost like a place to show off, which is really counter to the message that we hear from Jesus, who's saying, like, come and reveal the needs that you have and show where you need healing and show where you need attention, where, you know, you're struggling, so that you can be met not only by God and by Spirit, but by each other in community. So I think that, you know, we've sort of evolved as a faith community, not only here at Countryside, but in many of our churches, where people hopefully are feeling more willing to be vulnerable and share what's really going on and share their struggles, and know that it's not a place to come and just act like you have it all together, but to be able to say what's not going well, and where you need some extra support.
I think that is spot on. I mean, I know growing up Southern Baptist, it really was the Easter dress and the gloves and the white shoes and the don't get dirty, but don't get, right? You need to present a certain way. I think that I've been here a year, right, in Omaha, and just this Midwest understanding that is this, you know, people are honest and friendly and just show up as they are. But there's also this layer of, sometimes, maybe some my full self. But I do think that we have something really unique and special here in Omaha. It's kind of like time stands still a little bit if you look at the rest of the, you know, the coast to coast. And I think that is something to really champion, really, because to say that this is a community, a family-based community, that people grow up here, they build their lives here, they might move away, and then they come back. This really is a community, I think, rooted in faith traditions. I mean, like, the religiosity / religious community, I think, are at odds sometimes with, this is how I grew up and I should do these things. But those same values are rooting people to this deep communal kind of centeredness that exists. And so when you walk down the street, there are authentic conversations and people really care about getting to know you. And so I think that's something that comes from a place of deep faith, even if people don't name it as such, right? To know that we are rooted in this soil and this community and this vibrancy because we are interconnected and we belong to each other. We've gotten away from that, but I think we can work to continue to preserve the uniqueness of this community, and naming that this is what God is calling us to, right? That Spirit is present with and within us. And if we see that and recognize that and reach toward it, I think we can bring people to see that they too are fully welcome, not only in Countryside, but walking in their own skin in this world. And that's what I think, that's one of our goals, right? To create a community that's co-creating itself, right?
Yes,
From the
I love
inside
that.
out.
Yeah, community that's co-creating itself. I think that's so beautiful. And I think, you know, a lot of things I've been listening to right now in this moment in time after the election are talking about organizing and finding community. And if people are feeling vulnerable, you know, if anything about who they are feels like it is now subject to potential harm under the upcoming administration, that they would find community. And that's where I really think about Countryside, and I just think, like, they could walk through our doors and plug in here, you know. And I know that some of the things that we're doing to then intersect with other organizations in our community in Omaha, or whether it's a national organizing effort, you know, they can plug in here and then there as a connection point. And so sometimes I think when we hear about, you know, organizing or getting in community, it feels like it's happening out there, but it really is happening here. And this is exactly what that refers to, is finding people who you can see and be with and be physically present with. And, you know, it's so great how we can do so many things virtually, but especially as our technology can sometimes feel compromised in some way, having real human connection in a physical space can be so valuable too.
Yeah, I'm so glad you lifted that up, because, I mean, organizing, if you think about the early church, like some of the earliest organizers, right, were the disciples. And some people have a hard time imagining, like, organizing as a political way of doing advocacy. But organizing yourselves is a way of taking care of your community and whatever the needs that are arising. So we have this deep root in our own religious tradition of organizing, right? Deborah, right? One of the deaconesses, like the judge, she was an amazing organizer, right? And so we have so much to learn about our own tradition and how we might meet this moment with authenticity. And there are people showing up all across Omaha, all across the country, all across the world. Right? I've seen pictures of Omaha's blue dot showing up in different parts of the country. I saw a picture, somebody was hanging one in Vermont on their mailbox. They were like, "Woo, I see you." And that's just one way that people have connected at this moment around political identities or around saying, this is who I am. And I think that's a beautiful thing when people can say something's super important to me and I feel a little bit isolated in my part of the world or my part of the city. And so, wow, I see you and we kind of belong to each other. I think the hard thing is sometimes we have a hard time understanding how we belong to people who may not have the same color dot as us. And, as I think about Thanksgiving, that is, top of mind, as we go back to our homes of origin or family members that we don't see often. We can sit around the Thanksgiving table with people who are the most opposite of us, or maybe don't see us, or we don't see eye to eye on anything except for, wow, this turkey is amazing. Right? So I know our listeners, our community, we're all preparing to experience this holiday season. Some will have like friendsgivings. Some will, just be with their immediate families. But this is a moment in our history where we have usually gathered with people we love or gathered out of obligation with family members, not knowing if that's something that we want to do or should do. Or there are all kinds of ways that people are experiencing emotionally, spiritually, the distant sign of separation in our country, even around our own family's dinner tables. So I think that would be helpful for us to at least name, because that might be you you might be thinking, gosh, I don't have anywhere to go for Thanksgiving, or I have somewhere to go, but I'm not feeling safe going there.
Right.
I was talking to someone this week who just, doesn't really have anywhere to go. If they do go somewhere, it's going to be a terrible experience, and so I think a lot of people are excited about it and have amazing families and traditions, and that's so amazing. But naming that there are a lot of different ways that people are experiencing the grief, right, before this moment, and the grief of just family disconnect. Have you thought about that with your own family or friends or people that you know and here in Omaha?
Yeah, I think, ever since we've moved away from Pennsylvania, we've had our own small Thanksgiving as the five of us, whether it was in Hawaii, going to the beach in the morning and then having Thanksgiving dinner together, which was, really novel and fun for a while, to now, just having ourselves and sometimes kids' friends come over. But I think that especially for people who might be going into places where they don't feel safe or they feel uncomfortable, it sounds kind of easy, but I think it is really meaningful if you add the intention to it, to maybe have somebody kind of like on speed dial that you can reach out to, a good friend or someone you can text with if you are in a situation where, I guess I should back up and say, number one, I don't want to encourage anyone to be in a situation that could do them harm, whether emotionally or spiritually, psychically. Like, I would hope that there's some place that people can find community that's not in that kind of situation. Because I think sometimes we can hear these messages like, well, you have to reach across the aisle and connect, you have to stay connected to your family. But it just, every circumstance is a little different. And it's one thing to be able to be cordial and get along for the day. But if you're going to be going in a situation where you're going to be bullied, or people are really going to use that opportunity to lay into you for who you are, I think of our friends in the queer and trans community who, maybe are still having family who don't fully accept them, and say, like, you can come sit at our dinner table, but only if you aren't in your, being yourself as in transition, only if you go back to your sex assigned at birth for this occasion. And that can be really harmful and really destructive. So I would hate to ever encourage someone to be in that situation. And I know there's lots of opportunities to find community throughout Omaha for people who might otherwise be alone. It can be hard because it might require meeting new people for that day, but finding safe space would be really important.
Yeah, I think there are I know that PFLAG is hosting a dinner on Thanksgiving, which is really great here at Countryside. And there'll probably be more information about that for those who are listening that will be on our website and C10 and those things. But I think one of the most amazing things about technology is sort of, I know a lot of people have started this during COVID and then kept it up, where you might think, oh, I'm not going to go to that family thing because that's not really supportive of who I am. But, you know, I have these friends across the country and we're going to pick a time and we're all going to make our stuff and then we're going to be online together. Because it is a moment that we societally have chosen to say, this is a time when you do X things. Even if that's not, you know, doesn't have to always happen. It's something within us, right? That's, I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of a family unit or a group of people who see me and love me. And I can say, you know, I love you too. And share gratitude. So that's one really cool tradition that people, you know, are continuing to do. So they don't have to put themselves in harmful places, but can choose, you know, to see and engage with people and still do the fun kind of cooking. And here's my pie that burned and everyone laughs. I think that's a really wonderful gift. Encourage people to do that, to get online with a friend or to text or those kind of things. I know that a lot of folks have really great, wonderful holiday, you know, Thanksgiving traditions. My kids last night maybe, Sage was doing this whole, like, what's your favorite holidays kind of thing. And he asked Quinn, Thanksgiving or Halloween? And she was like, Halloween. And he was like, what? Oh my gosh, how could you not love Thanksgiving? And she's like, I do love it, but I also love Halloween. And he was going on and on about all the food, you know, my grandma makes this and of course, like, I make, you know, not that much. And so this weekend, my dad and my stepmom are coming to visit us. And so we'll make, you know, Thanksgiving. I will make some kind of Thanksgiving. And Sage was like, are you making cranberry salad? I was like, no, that would be Nanny's thing. Are you making this? No, that would be your other grandma. So I was like, I have nothing left of mine to make, which is just funny because I don't really cook that much. But, you know, it's a fun time to say, like, especially for kids, especially for those who are understanding really both, like, the root of this holiday, which, you know, doesn't have sort of great kind of roots in the way that we have colonized and, you know, taken some things and put them into an area that maybe they don't belong, but then just choosing a season of gratitude and helping them be aware of, well, how can we, right, share love and share gratitude? And just the simple, I love my nanny's, you know, cranberry salad, and that he will go visit her and they will have this wonderful, you know, opportunity to bond. So I think no matter what our situations are, finding some kind of way to connect, especially if it's just, you know, it can be a sticky or just awkward, or you don't really love spending time with your in-laws, but you love them. It's like, we all have our little kind of taboo things, but choosing something that we can be sort of illuminators for ourselves, right? Sort of, you know what? I see you. Go to the bathroom every once in a while and just say, you can get through this. But just knowing that we have within us, right? The sacred soul within us has what we need, but sometimes we lack the ability to tell ourselves that or to champion our own story. So like you said, you know, text that friend, go to the bathroom and take a deep breath. And then if you're just having such a great time, like, soak it up. Yeah. Right? Be with family. Do the things that allow us to be refueled, and make sure you just take care of yourself, no matter what that is. And do reach out anytime, you know, to Sarah or I or any of our staff, anyone here at Countryside. We are always here just to listen, to be walking alongside this journey together. So what a gift that is. But know that you are never alone. There's always a table open for you, and we hope that you continue to see and know that you are a beloved part of this community. You are a beloved human and loved just as you are. One of my favorite things about this moment in time is that we are about to enter my favorite season in the church year, which is Advent. And so I wanted to just kind of show, if you're watching, you get to see it. If you're listening, we'll just tell you. But the theme for our Advent is, how does a weary world rejoice? And we will be exploring and answering this question and asking it throughout the season of Advent, knowing that it's not always easy to rejoice. It takes sort of asking, well, what does it mean to rejoice? What does worship mean? What does it mean to ask ourselves these deep questions about, what is the content of my soul, and how am I feeling, and how am I responding to the questions the world is asking me, or to the, you know, flaming arrows the world is firing at me? So how do we rejoice? Well, one thing we do is we come together. And that this season of Advent is just a great time of anticipation and preparation It's a time that we explore our tradition, right? We as a progressive Christian denomination in the UCC, we have a lot more questions than we do answers. And I think that's wonderful, right? Our faith is over 2,000 years old. Our thinking is not. But sometimes in the middle of that, it can be challenging too to say, well, what do we believe, right? Well, the virgin birth, maybe not, right? There are a lot of different things that have been a part of our faith tradition that maybe we are not sort of in the literal world of claiming those truths, but they are still very foundational for us. And so it's nice to know where do we stand in this, and why does it matter that we are reborn again with Jesus time and time again?
Right.
So it's an exciting time. What are you looking forward to with Advent, Sarah?
Yeah, I just love the idea. I mean, I say love, but you know, I used to think, okay, Christmas season, Advent, going into Christmas tide is all about, again, kind of what we're talking about with coming to church, right? Like dressing up, getting festive, doing parties, all these things, and trying to like make it be like the best time of the year. All of that. It's the most wonderful time of the year.
That's right. I would sing it if I could.
Yeah.
But I can't.
We won't sing for you
We
today.
won't.
But I realized that, you know, a lot of times it's hard. It's a hard season for people. And when we really read the scriptures that are part of our Advent story, we see that Jesus was born into a tumultuous world. You know, I think sometimes we can think we know what the scriptures say, and we, you know, sing away in the manger and all these things that, you know, we have these sort of glossy images. But when we really think he was born in a manger, I mean, you know, as just going with the story and really like digging into it, the idea that the world was in turmoil, you know, his parents were fleeing. They found
a refugee, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
so the idea that, you know, Christ would come into a world that was broken, you know, it's not as though that was the perfect time and now we're in brokenness. Like there has been brokenness.
Yes.
And yet Christ comes to this world. I remember back like 10 years ago doing a sermon where, because it always would seem, and hopefully won't be the case here, but it would always seem like all these crises would happen, right? At the beginning of Advent. I mean, we are in crisis, but hopefully not with all of our church members. But I was doing just like a kind of vignette of the things that were happening. And then we would say, come Lord Jesus, you know, and it was the Advent hymn of come thou long expected Jesus. And just knowing that into our world, like into a weary world, Christ comes and is born anew every Advent.
yes, and that is our story. I mean, every time we think that we should be coming all put together, every time we think that we can't, how long, oh Lord, that we cannot make it, we cannot labor together, we cannot keep walking this journey, and where is faith and what's happening, every time we get to that place, we have a story, right? The greatest story ever told. We have this story that's more than a story. It's a transformative, interesting dichotomy around what we think the story is and what the story deeply is. It is our story, and we are just learning it over and over again. Every year, every Advent, we come to this place of, you know, what sometimes needs to fall apart, or what do we need to let go of in order for new birth to arise within us. I think that metaphorical deep sense of the earth's crying out and being reborn, we are also this microcosmic, you know, reflection of that same cycle that exists all the time, right? The leaves always fall and they always come back. We always have separation and loss and grief, and we are always born anew with hope. And so rejoicing doesn't always mean just standing and singing. Sometimes rejoicing means closing your eyes and imagining that that truth lives within us. And our soul rejoices, even if it's just one day at a time, that we are interconnected in this beautiful story. I mean, I think the coolest thing too, like Richard Rohr has this wonderful thing about time, you know, and the timelessness of God's story and this story. So whether or not we claim the Advent story, you know, in the fall, or we claim it at another time, this story is every single day, right, happening. Right? We are dying to self. We are self-aggrandizing. We are putting ourselves on a cross or someone else. And then we are, you know, with forgiveness and compassion. Wow, you know, thank you for allowing me, God, to see that I can grow and take one more step in this story of faith and love. So friends, we have a lot to share with you always. And we're so thrilled that we are entering this season with you, that we are co-creating this community of deep belonging and connection We hope that you have a wonderful season with family or friends. And if you are alone on Thanksgiving, make sure you are texting with a friend or calling someone or finding a community celebration or something that makes you feel like, wow, I am not alone. I am connected. And if you need to reach out to the church, please do that. There's a dinner that PFLAG is hosting, and you'll find out more about that. But again, enjoy the holiday, and we will not have a podcast next week, but we will see you the following week. So thank you. Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you.